the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq 100. Now, I'm going to start with ES first because I think this was the more important chart. Okay, first of all. So ES, and it was more important in my opinion because of where we were at the close on Friday. So on Friday, you started to see a nice push, and it was one of our better closes, really trying to push back into that 46.80 range, right? Now, the market in general has had a really nice push to the upside. But the area that's been the weakest, like in the past 5 or so trading days, kind of been tech, right? Tech's been lagging the case. We look at like something like Dow, and it's hard to not be excited. Like Dow on the day, still incredible. We'll come back into this. And then we go to NQ, and you look here, and this was definitely one of the more concerning charts. This is the daily time frame, right? You see we have that demand. We broke below it. Now this is invalidated, so this no longer be a demand. But I do want to show you where this support still was. Now, what I will say is, even though this demand is invalidated, let's get rid of that. I'm going to tell you right now, this level here is still 100% holding as a support. You are seeing buyers try to step in at around 15.8. Okay, so that's very important to realize. Now, what I do want to talk about today and what is happening is, one, you potentially could be bear flagging to break back down, totally a possibility. But going back into ES, very interesting to see kind of how you're playing out here. Okay, very interesting to see how you kind of bounce. And honestly, the dip here on ES, not as dramatic as NQ. NQ was a lot more worrisome, and you started to bounce still on top of support, things along those lines, and you're still holding there. So going into the rest of this week, a few things we need to be watching for as well. Okay, but I go into IWM and I'm like, dude, what's happening here, right? Even though we see the Dow, Dow's doing its thing, right? But Nasdaq and the S&P get this kind of big pullback. IWM and the Russell continue to just kind of get this like squeeze type action to the upside, right? It's been one of the best cases of, risk on versus risk off, right? When it comes to the market. And so there's a few things that you have to, definitely account for, right? Now, ideally what you would like to see, even though we broke up, you would love to see that break and retest of the 200 and then pushing back up, but you might not even get that here. Okay. Now we go into the dollar and we look what's happening here. And again, a lot of question marks getting rejected at these key levels. So all in all, the tone for myself does not change, because as we look at these equities as well, I think there's a little bit of a calming reassurance still here. Okay. And I think that the market needed a pullback, one, on some of these tech names, but you're going to get confirmation with a few things as well in the next few, maybe days, maybe by the end of the week as well. But before we get into that, that's you do two things. Consider liking and subscribing. It helps out tons. Appreciate all love and support here on the channel. There's no spots in Discord right now, so I'm not going to push anything like that. But I will say, I recommend the newsletters down below. That's 100% free. We have education on our website, 100% free. We do not charge for any of that. No course or anything like that as well. So make sure you're taking advantage of those free resources, right? Now, also, too, the Twitter link is down below. Obviously, it wasn't that active, past 2 days, right? It was on the trip, but now we're back. Okay, so make sure if you want to see all the charts, what we're doing here, going over all the requests, they're always there on the Twitter, 100% free for you guys, always. So let's get back into this. Now, again, it's important that, yes, the indexes, and this is, I'm watching this like a hawk. If we start breaking back below 15.8, it's going to be gross. And so if you're looking for like a downside play here, let me just make this really clear of what you're looking for. Number one, you have about 15.6. That's going to be a bit of a level. And you have 15.4 as well. So if you want to trade the downside, I personally am not trading the downside here. Just going to tell you that right now. But you'd be waiting for that breakdown, the retest, and then the push back into like 15.6. You have like 250 points of downside. It makes logical sense. That'd be your opportunity, right? ES, I don't see the opportunity here, right? Because you just slowly grind it up here. So it's going to be a lot tougher to break down personally, right? Now you get back below like 4,500, right? Then you're pretty illiquid here. So really on ES, like your support's like right here, right? You have to break below 4,500 to even like get bearish here, right? Now you could argue you start breaking down below like, 4,550, things get interesting, but even then it's just slow grinding. It's going to be tougher. So Nasdaq is where all the questions are. Now, despite saying that, I'm gonna look pretty broad here, the market, right? Okay. We go over NVIDIA, a lot of downside here today. Right. And this came out with some of the news around what they're doing with their chips and how they're like getting around some of the things with China. And basically people weren't happy with that. So NVIDIA started to take a hit. Still love them. Still think NVIDIA is a great stock. Still think their numbers are going to be phenomenal. End of the day. Okay. And then Microsoft as well came down with some of these cloud names, or the chip names as well. But again, Microsoft, fantastic daily candle. You came down to that like level we talked about, 367, 366, and you bounced, right? So look, you get that initial break this morning, right? You bounce, you almost mount it, and you're pushing back up as of right now. So this is like pretty great, like trap territory for sellers down there as well. So when I look at these names, and I'm looking at some of the names that have been the strongest and that had the most potential downside on the day, right? And when I see them recovering like this, it makes me really wonder if this was a true sell-off. Now, number 2, we have VIX as well coming in here, which obviously pushed up to like 14 and kind of is like just coming right back down. These are just not concerns for me right now, right? The dollar, I would love to see us get back below 200 SMA. That's what I'd like to see there. Yields, you saw them like get a little bit of love this morning, bouncing up. But again, you always hear me talk about the break and retest, right? So on the daily here, this is the daily on the 30-year yield, right? And remember what I said on Friday, okay? I was like, it makes logical sense when you came down to this level, right? So this is the 2022 high. Remember, go rewatch the video, Thursday into Friday. You came down, it made sense to bounce. And then Friday, you drop below. Today, you kind of retest, and that's just where you're at. That's what you want to see, okay? So even though the dollar got a little bit of love, you're still getting rejected from that point as of right now. The 2-year, breaking below 200 SMA. The 5-year, bouncing at it, probably going to break it soon. The 10-year, break, retest, and getting rejected back down. 200 SMA down there as well. So these are all things you're taking into account right now. Oil, getting slammed, right? The pennant, the bearish pennant. 200 SMA rejected, false breakout, boom, hammer to the downside. These are all things that are helping the upside move, or at least support an upside thesis, right? Now, I don't love to talk about Bitcoin, okay? I don't think Bitcoin leads the market. I posted this on Twitter the other day. You can go check it out. It's somewhere on there, right? I'm not going to scroll through that. But it made logical sense why Bitcoin broke out over the weekend. It just did. Everything did, right? Futures looked fantastic going in from Friday into the weekend. Obviously, Bitcoin ran. Now, the interesting part, and it's running with IWM, which would probably be the best case of kind of getting this breakout as well with risk on, right? So when I'm looking at that viewpoint as well, I'm just telling you, these are all signs of bullish behavior or a risk on environment in the market. Okay? Don't shoot the messenger. Personal opinion. Okay? So those are things I'm looking at. Now let's go a little bit deeper. Let's talk about some equities, okay? I'm not going to do too heavy today. I'm not going to go too much into options AI or things like that, right? But what I will say also to you guys, if you are interested, you always are seeing me use some of these indicators, right? You have the key levels, you have the support and resistance, the demands down here. You have the new volume indicator on here, which showed a lot of heavy selling today. But guess what? Bought back up even through that heavy selling. Very bullish indicator as well, right? Check them out. Chart Prime. The link is down below, right? If you want to support the channel, and if you want to get those indicators, they're down below, right? Anyways, I want to go over some equities here just for a sec. CrowdStrike, very interesting, right? So what I want to do is I want to go over names that have beat on earnings too. So I've continued to talk about areas in the market that I think have the most upside, most potential, etc. Okay. Now, I think chips are included into that part, but right now chips are obviously under a lot of fire, right? Because of what's happening specifically towards NVIDIA. Like if we look at SMH, the semiconductor ETF, I mean, great hold, phenomenal, still operating in that flag, even though it's ugly, but I mean, fantastic candle. Fill the gap if that's what you were interested in there as well. Bounce on support. That's what you want to see. SOXX, right? Still good. Bouncing around. I mean, I haven't even touched. I just literally got back to the computer, right? This is all still there, right? So I still think semis have a lot of strength. Okay. And again, I might be an unpopular opinion. People might call me a perma bull. This is just what I'm looking at in the market. Now, when we start getting aggressive selling, we start flipping key supports, I'd be a bear. But until then, I have to side with the logic. But I want to talk about names that I think are still dominating, right? Again, names I've been loving. Said Cloud, I love them, right? I think Cloud, you might be late to the ship if you didn't get in originally. But names like CrowdStrike, CRM, Snow, those names all bounced back pretty strong on the day. CRM might have been the least bounce because it just kept running parabolic for like so many days. You go to Snow, bouncing back up, which is really surprising. Like, didn't have the greatest earnings in comparison to some other. Datadog, bouncing back up, right? You're just gonna notice the kind of going theme here. All these are very green, okay? And again, I think cloud is like the Robin to the Batman being semiconductors, right? So this is very interesting what you're seeing here. You know, you did, and your AVGO just sitting at AVGO is crazy right here. I'm not gonna lie, sitting at 920, kind of wild, but huge support there as well. We won't go too heavy into that. Now, going into Amazon, right? Again, I still love it. You come down to support, you bounce right back off of it, right? Again, these are all names we've been talking about and we still like, right? Google, not as great here though, right? But the names that we have fundamentally been really bullish on are having the best recoveries here. Now, I think with tech, you're getting an opportunity. I'm going to tell you that right now. Is it risky? Yes. The fact that Microsoft bounced right off its previous all-time high, awesome. You needed that to hold, and it did. Apple, again, just holding basically at the key level, 189.90, 190 roughly. These are all things that you wanted to see, and they're still doing it, even with the downside that you had on the day. Okay, that's the really important part, is when I'm looking at this market, I'm looking at the downside that we had and then the reaction to the initial movement that we had. And then could we retain it? Could we follow through? And so far, not yet. But I'm going to tell you, you're not out of it yet. This isn't confirmed because, again, right here, this candle so far going into the overnight session, not the greatest, right? But ES still looks decent. So these are things that I'm watching, things I'm looking for here. IWM's the big thing here, though, for me. The fact that it's holding and moving like this has me happy still, right? I mean, at least when I look at the chart, I'm like, dude, like this isn't that bad. Again, and then all the recoveries across the board as well. A few things you would be looking for, though. Tesla tomorrow, if it holds 232, still have upside potential there. CrowdStrike, wouldn't be touching that. You're obviously too ran. Amazon, again, people keep asking me, can I get in? Well, spoiler alert, you buy when people are fearful. You buy at support. And this is, again, 143, 142-ish, give or take. You keep bouncing from that range, right? Apple, as long as you hold 190, still like it. A little bit riskier since you're up this high, but still I like it. But the fact that Apple and these names are holding up near highs despite this action is what has me the most bullish, is what keeps me excited about this movement, okay? That's my opinion. If you have questions, comment down below. And I didn't go too in depth with some specific stocks. I'll have more stuff on Twitter, getting back in the groove of things. Expect the video tomorrow. I'll see you guys live, 10:30 a.m. Central tomorrow. Have a good one, traders.